Your soul has been preparing for this moment. Right now, as you're reading these words, there's a frequency shifting in the cosmos that's about to unlock something you've been sensing but couldn't quite name. On February 6th, at exactly 10:07 p.m. Eastern Time, Mercury crosses the threshold into Pisces, and with this single celestial movement, a psychic portal cracks open that will fundamentally alter how you receive information from the universe. This isn't about learning new things, it's about remembering what your spirit already knows. You may have felt the approach of this transit for days now. That strange intuitive stirring, the dreams getting more vivid, the synchronicities multiplying, the veil between dimensions feeling thinner with every breath. Mercury at 0 degrees and 19 minutes of Pisces forms an immediate semi-sextile with Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, creating an energetic bridge between your rational mind and your cosmic consciousness. The whispers you've been hearing, they're about to become declarations. The intuition you've been questioning, it's about to prove itself undeniable. Before we dive deeper into this spiritual activation, leave a like and subscribe so the universe knows you're ready for these transmissions, and drop a comment saying, "I trust my intuition to lock in this frequency." Let's go deeper. Something shifts inside your consciousness the moment Mercury enters Pisces. This isn't your typical planetary transit where you feel subtle changes over days or weeks. This is an immediate psychic upgrade, a cosmic software update, downloading directly into your third eye, your crown chakra, your entire energetic operating system. Mercury, the planet that governs how you think, communicate, process information, and make sense of reality, has just stepped into the most mystical, intuitive, spiritually connected sign in the entire zodiac. For the next 68 days, until April 14th, Mercury will swim through Piscean waters, but this extended stay comes with a twist. Mercury will station retrograde on February 26th and won't go direct again until March 20th, which means this isn't just a brief visit, it's a full immersion, a complete recalibration of how you perceive truth, communicate meaning, and connect with the invisible forces guiding your path. Pisces operates beyond logic, beyond proof, beyond the rational structures your mind usually relies on. When Mercury enters this sign, your thinking becomes more fluid, more symbolic, more connected to the emotional and spiritual currents flowing beneath the surface of everyday reality. You begin to understand things you couldn't possibly know through conventional means. You sense truths before anyone speaks them. You feel shifts in energy before they manifest physically. Your dreams carry messages that are too specific, too accurate to be random neural firings. This is the psychic portal opening. This is your consciousness expanding beyond the limitations of material reality and tapping into the universal intelligence that connects all things. Mercury in Pisces activates what astrologers call the intuitive channel. Your third eye, which may have been dormant or blocked for months or even years, begins to vibrate at a higher frequency. Information downloads into your awareness without passing through the usual logical filters. You know things without knowing how you know them. This isn't imagination or wishful thinking. This is your spirit accessing information from timelines, dimensions, and consciousness fields that exist beyond physical reality. People will tell you things they never intended to share, and you'll realize you already knew. You'll think of someone seconds before they call or text. You'll have a gut feeling about a situation that defies all logical analysis, yet proves devastatingly accurate. This is Mercury in Pisces, showing you that rationality is only one way of knowing, and it's not even the most powerful one. The aspect Mercury forms immediately upon entering Pisces reveals how this transit connects to the larger cosmic story unfolding. That semi-sextile to Neptune at 0 degrees Aries creates a subtle but potent link between communication and spiritual awakening, between thought and transcendence. Neptune, the modern ruler of Pisces, has just entered Aries for the first time in over 160 years, and now Mercury is establishing a bridge between these two realms. Your thoughts are being baptized in mystical water. Your logical mind is being introduced to your soul's knowing. This aspect says you can't separate your consciousness from cosmic consciousness anymore. They're merging, blending, becoming one unified field of awareness. What makes this transit even more potent is the timing. Mercury enters Pisces right as Venus, still glowing in Aquarius, prepares to shift into Pisces on February 10th. This means that by mid-February, both Mercury and Venus, the two personal planets most connected to relationships, communication, and how you experience pleasure and connection, will be swimming through Piscean frequencies together. Your heart and your mind will speak the same spiritual language. Your ability to communicate love and your capacity to feel it will align at a soul level. But before Venus arrives, Mercury is doing the preparatory work, clearing the psychic channels, opening the intuitive pathways, making space for a level of emotional and spiritual connection that transcends anything you've experienced before. The universe doesn't do anything randomly. Mercury entering Pisces on February 6th positions this transit to act as a bridge between the Aquarius stellium energy that's been dominating January and early February and the massive Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries coming on February 20th. You're moving from air to water to fire, from mind to spirit to action, from collective awakening to intuitive knowing to courageous manifestation. Mercury in Pisces is the middle passage, the dream time between what was and what will be, the liminal space where transformation happens, not through force but through surrender, not through control but through trust. Now let's talk about who feels this most intensely. While everyone experiences Mercury transits to some degree, 3 zodiac signs are positioned to undergo a complete spiritual awakening during this transit. If you're one of these signs, the psychic portal doesn't just crack open for you, it explodes, flooding your consciousness with downloads, visions, intuitive hits, and spiritual revelations that will permanently alter your relationship with reality. Pisces, this is your moment. Mercury in your sign means the planet of communication is activating your first house, your house of identity, self-expression, and how you show up in the world. For the next 2 months, you're not just more intuitive, you become a walking antenna for cosmic information. Your sensitivity, which people have maybe criticized or dismissed, suddenly becomes your greatest gift. You're receiving psychic information constantly. Dreams aren't just dreams anymore, they're prophetic visions, spiritual downloads, messages from your higher self. You might wake up with solutions to problems you never consciously thought about. You might speak truths that surprise even you, realizing the words came through you rather than from you. This is Mercury empowering your natural Piscean gifts, turning up the volume on your intuition until ignoring it becomes impossible. What you need to understand, Pisces, is that this transit is preparing you for something massive. With Venus joining Mercury in your sign on February 10th, and the upcoming Mercury retrograde from February 26th through March 20th, you're being initiated into a new level of spiritual authority. The universe is showing you that your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's power. Your ability to feel everything isn't a burden, it's a superpower. Your connection to the unseen realms isn't fantasy, it's your greatest asset. People will start coming to you for guidance without understanding why. They'll feel drawn to your energy, sensing something has shifted in you. You're becoming a bridge between worlds, and Mercury is teaching you how to translate spiritual truth into human language. Pay attention to every intuitive hit, every dream symbol, every synchronicity. They're not random. They're your soul speaking to you in the only language it knows. The challenge for you during this transit is discernment. Mercury in Pisces can blur boundaries between imagination and intuition, between wishful thinking and genuine spiritual guidance. This is why the retrograde matters. From February 26th onward, Mercury will be asking you to go back, review, refine, and clarify. Not every thought is a message. Not every feeling is truth. But the real ones, the ones that carry that undeniable resonance, those are your North Star. Trust them even when logic argues otherwise. Trust them even when others doubt you. Trust them because your spirit knows what your mind is still learning, that you are divinely guided, cosmically protected, and exactly where you're meant to be. Gemini, Mercury is your ruling planet, which means whenever Mercury changes signs, you feel it in your core. But Mercury in Pisces activates your 10th house, your house of career, public reputation, life direction, and soul mission. This transit is showing you that your professional path isn't just about ambition or success, it's about spiritual alignment. You're being guided to move your career in a direction that honors your soul's purpose, not just your ego's desires. You might receive intuitive downloads about your life direction, sudden clarity about what you're actually meant to be doing in this world. Projects that felt forced suddenly feel effortless when they're aligned with your spirit. Opportunities appear that you couldn't have planned for because they're cosmically orchestrated. What makes this powerful for you, Gemini, is that you're naturally mentally quick, verbally skilled, and intellectually agile, but Pisces energy slows you down in the best way. You're learning to listen to the spaces between thoughts, to trust the knowing that doesn't come from analysis. Your career success over the next 2 months won't come from being the smartest person in the room. It'll come from being the most spiritually aligned. People in positions of authority will sense something different about you. Your public image shifts as you step into authenticity rather than performance. This is Mercury teaching you that true leadership doesn't come from controlling outcomes. It comes from surrendering to divine timing and trusting that the universe is moving you toward your highest timeline. The retrograde period from late February through mid-March will be especially important for you. Mercury retrograding through your 10th house means you might revisit career decisions from the past, reconnect with old professional contacts, or realize that a path you abandoned years ago is actually the one you're meant to walk now. Don't resist these revisitations. They're not setbacks, they're redirections. Your soul is using this retrograde to show you what still carries purpose and what you've finally outgrown. By the time Mercury goes direct on March 20th, you'll have absolute clarity about your next professional chapter, and it won't be something you figured out, it'll be something you remembered. Virgo, Mercury is also your ruling planet, but it's activating your 7th house, your house of relationships, partnerships, marriage, and one-on-one connections. Mercury in Pisces is fundamentally shifting how you communicate in relationships and what you're actually seeking in partnership. For months, maybe years, you've been approaching relationships with logic, trying to make sense of connections that defy rational explanation. You've been analyzing, organizing, trying to control outcomes through planning and strategy. Mercury in Pisces is dissolving all of that. You're learning that the deepest connections aren't built on compatibility lists or logical assessments. They're built on energetic resonance, soul recognition, and spiritual alignment. During this transit, you might experience telepathic connection with someone significant. You think of them, and they reach out. You feel their emotions even when they're not physically present. You dream of conversations that then happen word for word in waking life. This isn't coincidence. This is Mercury in Pisces showing you that communication at the soul level transcends words, transcends physical proximity, transcends rational understanding. You're being initiated into a new way of relating, one that honors intuition over analysis, feeling over thinking, soul connection over surface compatibility. What's particularly powerful for you, Virgo, is that this directly challenges your natural tendencies. You're the sign most associated with discernment, organization, practical analysis. Yet here's Mercury asking you to trust what can't be measured or proven. The growth available to you during this transit is immense, but it requires surrender. It requires allowing yourself to feel without immediately trying to understand. It requires opening your heart without your mind running interference. The relationships that matter most in your life right now, whether romantic partnerships, business collaborations, or deep friendships, they're all getting spiritually recalibrated. People who aren't aligned with your soul's evolution will naturally drift away. People who are meant to walk your path with you will feel impossible to ignore. Trust the energetic pull even when the logical reasons aren't clear yet. The Mercury retrograde through your 7th house from late February through mid-March might bring someone from your past back into your awareness, or it might help you finally release a connection you've been holding on to for all the wrong reasons. Either way, trust the process. Your spirit knows which connections feed your growth and which ones keep you small. Mercury is simply giving you the clarity to see what your heart has known all along. Beyond these three signs, everyone will feel Mercury in Pisces to some degree, activating different houses in different charts, but the universal themes remain the same. Your intuition strengthens, your dreams become more vivid and meaningful. Your ability to sense energy, read between the lines, and trust your gut reaches new levels. This is the time to start a dream journal, to pay attention to synchronicities, to honor the subtle guidance your spirit is constantly offering. Logic has its place, but during Mercury in Pisces, your greatest wisdom comes from the knowing that transcends rational thought. Let's talk about practical application. How do you actually work with this energy? How do you maximize the gifts Mercury in Pisces is offering while navigating the potential challenges? First, understand that this transit changes how you should make decisions. During Mercury in Pisces, especially during the retrograde phase from February 26th through March 20th, trying to force clarity through analysis will only create more confusion. The decisions you need to make during this period require a different approach. You sit with them, you feel into them, you notice which options make your body relax and which ones create tension. You trust the answer that comes in the quiet moments, the flash of knowing that arrives when you're not actively searching for it. This is also the time to embrace creative and spiritual practices that open your intuitive channels. Meditation becomes more powerful during Mercury in Pisces. Journaling, especially free writing without editing or censoring, allows messages from your subconscious to surface. Art, music, poetry, anything that engages your right brain and bypasses your analytical mind. These become portals for spiritual download. If you've been curious about oracle cards, energy healing, or any intuitive modality, Mercury in Pisces is your invitation to explore without judgment. You don't need to understand how it works. You just need to be open to the experience. Communication during this transit requires conscious attention. Mercury in Pisces can create misunderstandings because people are operating more from feeling than from clear articulation. When having important conversations, take extra time to clarify what you mean and confirm what you're hearing. Don't assume you understand someone's intention without checking. Don't assume they understand yours without explicitly stating it. The gift is that emotionally, spiritually, and energetically, communication deepens beyond words. You can feel what someone means even when they struggle to express it. You can sense truth beneath surface statements. This makes Mercury in Pisces incredibly powerful for healing conversations, for breaking through old patterns, for finally saying what's been unsaid. The retrograde period, which begins on February 26th, when Mercury stations at 22 degrees Pisces, is not something to fear. Mercury retrograde gets a bad reputation, but it's actually a gift when you understand its purpose. Retrogrades are about review, revision, reconnection, and release. During Mercury retrograde in Pisces, you're being asked to go back through your emotional and spiritual archives. What past intuitive hit did you ignore that you now realize was accurate? What dream carried a message you dismissed? What feeling did you talk yourself out of that you should have honored? This retrograde is clearing your psychic channels by showing you where you disconnected from your own knowing. You might reconnect with people from your past during this retrograde, not because you're meant to recreate what was, but because there's unfinished spiritual business, a conversation that needs completion, a pattern that needs conscious release, a lesson that needs integration. You might revisit creative projects you abandoned, realizing they're actually aligned with your current path. You might discover old journals or writings that contain wisdom you needed to hear right now. This is the universe showing you that nothing is ever wasted, that every experience, every intuition, every spiritual download has been preparing you for this exact moment. The deeper spiritual meaning of Mercury in Pisces connects to dissolution and transcendence. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac, the culmination of all previous signs' lessons, the return to cosmic unity before the cycle begins again with Aries. When Mercury moves through Pisces, your consciousness is being prepared for rebirth. Old mental patterns that kept you trapped in limited thinking are dissolving. Beliefs that no longer serve your evolution are falling away. The rigid structures your mind built to feel safe are softening, making space for a more fluid, intuitive, spiritually connected way of being. This is why the timing matters so much. Mercury enters Pisces right before Saturn, the planet of structure and limitation, moves into Aries on February 13th, right before the massive Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries on February 20th, right before the Aquarius solar eclipse on February 17th. You're being prepared. Mercury in Pisces is dissolving your old mental and spiritual frameworks so you can build new ones. It's clearing out the psychic debris so you can receive the downloads coming through the eclipse and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. It's opening your intuition so you can navigate the profound transformations February is bringing. Think of Mercury in Pisces as a baptism of consciousness. You're being immersed in waters that wash away everything false, everything forced, everything that isn't in alignment with your soul's truth. When you emerge from these waters on April 14th, when Mercury finally leaves Pisces and enters Aries, you won't be the same person. Your relationship with intuition will be fundamentally different. Your trust in spiritual guidance will be unshakable. Your ability to distinguish between ego and soul, between fear and knowing, between illusion and truth, it will be refined to a level you couldn't have imagined before this transit began. The universe is also clearing space in your consciousness for something new. Mercury in Pisces doesn't just dissolve old patterns. It makes room for new spiritual gifts to activate. You might discover you're naturally empathic, feeling others' emotions as if they're your own. You might realize you're clairvoyant, hearing guidance messages or knowing that comes through as inner voice. You might find you're clairvoyant, receiving information through images, symbols, or visions. Whatever gifts are dormant within you, Mercury in Pisces is creating the conditions for them to awaken. Don't resist these activations. Don't explain them away. Don't let skepticism or fear shut down what's trying to open. Your soul has been waiting for this moment, for this transit, for this permission to finally show you what's possible when you trust the unseen. As this psychic portal opens wider with each passing day, as Mercury swims deeper into Piscean waters, as the retrograde approaches and then completes, you're stepping into a reality where intuition isn't optional, it's essential. Where spiritual guidance isn't metaphor, it's literal. Where the veil between dimensions isn't theory, it's lived experience. This is your initiation, your awakening, your remembering that you are not separate from the cosmos, you are an expression of it. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every decision you make during this transit, they're all infused with spiritual significance. Nothing is random, nothing is ordinary, everything carries meaning. You are being shown that consciousness is far more expansive than you were taught to believe. That reality is far more malleable than material science suggests. That you have access to information, guidance, and wisdom that exists beyond the limitations of space and time. Mercury in Pisces is your proof. It's your initiation. It's your cosmic permission slip to finally trust what you've always known but were afraid to claim. You are psychic. You are spiritually connected. You are divinely guided. And this transit is here to show you exactly how powerful that truth actually is. The psychic portal is open. Mercury has crossed the threshold into Pisces, and with it, your consciousness is expanding beyond anything your rational mind thought possible. The intuition you've been questioning is about to prove itself undeniably accurate. The spiritual guidance you've been seeking is about to flood through every dream, every synchronicity, every quiet knowing that rises from within. This isn't the beginning of a minor transit. This is the beginning of a spiritual awakening that changes everything. Trust what you feel. Honor what you know. Listen to what your soul is whispering. The universe is speaking directly to you, and for the next 68 days, you have unprecedented access to its wisdom. If this message activated something in your spirit, leave a like and subscribe to stay connected to these transmissions, and seal this energy by commenting, "I trust my intuition," below. The portal is open, your consciousness is expanding, your spiritual gifts are awakening, and the universe is guiding you toward a level of knowing you were always meant to claim. Your intuition is your superpower. It's time to trust it completely.